I literally already filmed this entire video at like 9 a.m. this morning, but then when I looked back to look at the footage, I looked so freaking dead. I had to refilm. Basically, I read These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong, and I have thoughts. I feel like this book got like a pretty good amount of hype like as it was coming out. I'm actually like a doormat. I'm swayed so much by other people's opinions. When I looked on like Goodreads, it seemed like it had like kind of mixed reviews, so I was kind of hesitant picking it up. But when I heard that it was like an urban fantasy that was set in Asia, I was like, I gotta do it. I'm going to keep this first part spoiler free. I gave the book 3.75 out of 5 stars. I've never been that exact on decimals before, so I feel like I should just say 4 out of 5 stars. I feel like I should be like holding up the book or something, but I read the ebook, I read it on my iPad. I rarely buy physical books because they're kind of expensive, and I'm a broke college student, so These Violent Delights is marketed as like a Romeo and Juliet retelling, but set in 1920s Shanghai. It's set in 1926, I think. We follow these two rivaling gangs called the Scarlet Gang and the White Flowers. The Scarlet Gang is run by the Kai family, and the heir to that gang is Juliet Kai. And then the White Flowers are like run by the Montagues. The heir to the White Flowers is Roma. So before the story takes place, Roma and Juliet were like together at some point, and then all this like betrayals and all these stuff happen, so they're not together anymore. The story kicks off when this strange like scary madness thing is like overtaking Shanghai, and all these people are just like dying and like dropping like flies like left and right. And on top of all of that, there's this looming threat, all this political reform that's taking place, and then also all these like white men coming to Shanghai to try to like colonize. Because do you know what's scarier than a big monster and people dying all the time? Colonization. Wait, is that not just what colonization is though? So that's kind of like what the book is about. We follow Juliet and Roma trying to like solve this big mystery. Of course, we also follow all the sexual tension between them and their friends too. So with all that being said, this book was actually like so spicy. Like, this is the first time that I had encountered some of the discussions that this book introduces in like a YA urban fantasy novel, you know? As I was reading it, I literally like screenshotted it and I like sent it to my friend. Like, there's this one part where Juliet and her father need to go meet with these like random British traders or like French traders, I don't really know. But Juliet overhears this conversation between these two random people, and they say they sip away on their tea and claim they invented it. The second man continued, "Think again, fool. The Chinese were brewing tea before you even had a king." You tell him, as you should. And then when Juliet's father and the consul general of France are trying to like negotiate trading or like business things, I don't really know anything about business. It says, Juliet thought the whole thing theatrical and ridiculous. She thought it preposterous that her father had to ask permission to run business on land their ancestors had lived and died on from men who had simply docked their boat here and decided they would like to be in charge now. For the most part, this book is kind of in Juliet's perspective, and she kind of provides this really unique, almost like Asian American perspective. She was sent to America when she was young to go to school there. She talks about the dynamics she experienced being an Asian girl among like all these white men in America. It said like, oh, she learned to fake meekness and lower her gaze in the event that the white lady's husband would note the slight roll of Juliet's eyes and yell after her, demanding to know why she was in this country and what her problem was. Those I feel like are more explicit times when she's kind of explaining the experience of oppressed racial minorities in predominantly white countries, but there are also other discussions that are more specific, I guess. She talks about how when she was in New York, the other kids would make fun of her because they couldn't pronounce her Chinese name, and so she chose an English name for herself. That still has like a lot of like, I guess, hurt and trauma. Like, you can tell so clearly that Chloe Gong has been through it, because all of us have been through it. Like, those experiences are so I want to say like important, not that they're like really positive and like fun experiences to have. They're very much shared experiences for a lot of like Asian Americans or Asian Canadians like me, or Asian New Zealanders like Chloe Gong. By the way, I don't just know that Chloe Gong is from New Zealand like off the top of my head. I googled it earlier when I was originally filming this video. Maybe I'll like insert the clip here if I don't like look and sound too dead in it, but I think Chloe Gong, actually I don't know that much about Chloe Gong. I'm gonna Google it right now. Oh perfect, she has a Wikipedia. So Chloe Gong, born 1997 or 1998? You're kidding. She's like what, 23? Is she 23? She's a Chinese-born New Zealand author. Okay, so she was born in Shanghai and she moved to New Zealand with her family when she was 2. She wrote her novel in May 2018 after her freshman year of college. Wait, I'm after my freshman year in college. Oh. Anyway, but yeah, in the writing, you can definitely tell that Chloe Gong put the most of her personal experience and care into creating Juliet's character, because Juliet's clearly the most developed character. Like, I'm so sorry, but Roma is clearly the most blandest character of this entire crew. I feel like there's not that much to his personality besides the fact that he's scared of being like dethroned in the White Flower Gang, and the fact that he's not over Juliet. I feel like that's like his character. I don't know if this counts as like a spoiler, so I'll try to be like vague about it, but there's one like transgendered girl character as well, and we learn a little bit about her backstory. And there's also like a budding male-male relationship. This book was very much focused on like the plot, like the madness and like the monster and stuff that that Roma and Juliet are trying to figure out. Even their romance, like their relationship, is pretty secondary, I think, to that main plot, which I honestly really liked. Their relationship wasn't that compelling for me because the whole story of them like falling in love and actually getting together happens before the book starts. This story is about them having to like reconcile, kind of like a second chance romance type beat, you know? Like, oh, can they put aside their history and their differences to work together? I think one of the main like critique, like I just looked at the Goodreads review for like 2 seconds, but I think one of the more common like comments that I saw about this story is that it's not really like a Romeo and Juliet retelling, which I kind of agree. Like, it feels more like an homage to Romeo and Juliet rather than like a full-blown retelling, because I don't think it tries to like follow the plot. Granted, I don't really know that much about the plot of Romeo and Juliet, like I never read it. I just know like whatever the movie Romeo and Juliet taught me. I did watch like the Romeo and Juliet remake movie thing, but I honestly don't remember. I was so distracted by Leonardo DiCaprio the entire time. But yeah, I don't think it's like a very committed like Romeo and Juliet retelling. I just think that it has like rival gangs and a forbidden love. I honestly feel like that's enough like for it to be like a Romeo and Juliet retelling. I don't really know though. Anyway, I enjoyed the book. I'm excited for the sequel. I was like, my jaw like was like that when I was reading the ending, and I'm like really excited for the rest of the series. Okay, now for spoilery thoughts. I think another one of the main comments I guess I saw about this book is that there was so much body gore and people weren't enjoying it, which honestly like I understand, because I really don't do well reading about physical body harm in books and stuff. But I honestly found this book to like not be that bad. Of course, it's like super disturbing and like gross to hear about people like clawing out their own throats because of this madness. And that's like what I'm assuming that people are referring to. But I honestly found the freaking bugs to be the grossest part of this entire book. If Chloe Gong was trying to like gross us out, if she really hit the nail on the head with that one, because oh my gosh, can you imagine like a million bugs just like raining down on you? Sis, I'm sorry, that's so, That's so gross. When Marshall and Benedict were like investigating the corpse and they found all those bugs like buried into the guy's scalp. The bugs really did it for me. So basically she did a good job with that. I freaking love Marshall. I must be biased because he's the only Korean character and I'm like always biased towards the Korean characters. Also, he has the exact personality that I love to read about in books, like the funny, reckless one. I'm always like so biased towards that character. We should have spent more time with Marshall. Marshall and Kathleen too. Honestly, I think those two are probably like two of like my favorite characters. I hope we get to like develop upon them and get more attached to them in the sequel. I hope we do for like all the characters. In terms of the whole like ending like plot twist, I guess, the gangs are finally like in confrontation with each other and like someone's gotta die. Juliet goes and like shoots Marshall and then it's revealed at the very end of the book that Marshall's actually alive and she staged the whole thing. Okay, they explained it. My brain cell honestly couldn't keep up with it. I might have to like reread that part or something. I couldn't really follow along with it, but like I said, I'm not mad about it because that's my boy Marshall. I hope that he was alive. My jaw dropped at that part when Juliet like pulled the trigger. I fully bought into it. Like I fully thought that she did kill him. Like it wouldn't have surprised me. I'm glad she didn't though. I think that's it for me. I honestly can't remember a lot of what actually happens. I'm like a goldfish. The second that I close the book, everything just flies away. Like I already forget what I even talked about at the beginning of this video. I'm just saying that people need to stop sleeping on these violent delights. I'm excited for the sequel. I feel like this has big series potential, as it should. Urban fantasy like series. I feel like typically those series tend to like do like larger series, if that makes sense. It will be the first time that I'm reading one from an A, like Asian author and B, like Asian protagonist. Go and read it. Go support my girl Chloe Gong, who's like 22 years old or something. She's like 22 or 23. I'm kind of shook. I'm 19. I feel very rushed right now. I need to go and like do something with my life. Go read these violent delights. Okay, bye.